Hello, freak bitches.
Why is Joe Rogan moving to Spotify? And how is Spotify benefiting from this deal? Stick around to find out. It's safe to say that over the last few years, there has been an obvious ever-increasing decline in the overall viewership of traditional TV, with more and more people shifting their watch time from the likes of ABC, MTV and BBC One to more internet and streaming services like Netflix, Disney Plus and of course podcasts like JRE, The Daily and Crime Junkies. But why is this the case and why does it matter? One idea behind this transition is the fact that majority of media stations spew waffle. And within this plethora of waffle, it becomes a near impossible task of simply finding an objective source that you can make your own decisions on instead of being spoon-fed the same lies and over again like with an overgrown baby. This deliberate spread of information isn't something new or exclusive to news channels. It's been happening ever since the first form of media was produced, a newspaper, all the way back in 1605. But nowadays, newspapers, magazines and journals and other forms of printed material have been replaced with television sets in each room of the house and a screen in your pocket. Because of how easy it is to simply reach into your pocket and receive the latest update from CNN, many of us have lost the ability to think clearly and critically because of the regurgitation of rubbish that is constantly bombarded at us. And this, of course, just further reinforces their narratives and perspectives into our heads. Content creators like JRE and others have seen this and seized the opportunity to capitalize on this by producing their own stuff, knowing full well what the current and upcoming generation wants. And boy, has it worked. From what I could find online, we have individuals like Sean Hannity who bring in an average of 3.1 million views every night on Fox News, making him the largest cable TV host. Just behind him are Rachel Maddow and Tucker Carlson, drawing in an average of 3.6 and 2.9 million views in respectively. These are some impressive numbers. Now let's compare them to Rogan's. The original Joe Rogan Experience channel, which has all of the full-length podcasts, averages around 3.7 million views a day. This alone makes Joe the most popular host of any TV show out right now. But it doesn't end there. There's also a second channel, JRE Clips, averaging around 5.8 million views a day. In addition to this, there's also many smaller unofficial and social media channels that all add to Joe's reach and rake in the views as well. But unfortunately, there's no way to keep a track or a count of these views, so let's go with the more conservative 500,000 views a day. So essentially, adding all of this up, we have Rogan bringing in around 10 million views a day, which equates to 300 million a month, thus making a DIY podcast with a couple of employees reeling in about half of the viewership of CNN and 2/3 of NBC, both of which are multi-billion-dollar organizations. And considering this, I would also say that Joe has more of an influence over the larger news corporations and mainstream media in general because of his diverse audience and somewhat relatability. These figures and reasons are enough for any media company to invest in JRE. But let's get into exactly how Spotify will benefit from this deal. Spotify, the #1 music streaming service in the world with 96 million subscribers and 170 million users overall, is the go-to spot for any music fan to get their daily fix. However, much of their audience and non-audience alike was shocked to hear that the music service has bought the largest podcast in the world for a staggering $100 million. But this was a very strategic move from Spotify that will elevate them from just a music service to the king of audio. This plan came into fruition, or at least more obvious, in 2019 when they bought 2 media companies and 1 podcast company called Anchor for $400 million. Shortly after, they invested another $200 million acquiring The Ringer, Bill Simmons' flagship show. Okay, that's great. I understand that this investment of $750 million has added to Spotify's library content, but there's got to be more behind the acquisitions, right? Simply put, yes. Spotify's main objective is to get more people using their app. Similar to how Google collects your data on what you watch, the ads you click, your location and your cookie information so that they can personalize all their services to you individually. Spotify essentially wants to do this too, and the only way to do this is to acquire more data. This data will come through more users, and what's one way to get a ton of users quickly? Buy the world's largest podcast and host it on your platform exclusively. If you're still not convinced that all of these acquisitions are worth it, Let me tell you, just by Spotify buying JRE, they've added $1.7 billion to their stock in less than half an hour of announcing the news and $5 billion in the first 48 hours. If you could somehow legitimately turn $100 into $5,000 in 48 hours without no effort on your side, would you do it? I'm assuming yes. Moreover, until recently, there has never been a single podcast company that sells ads, makes content, and has a popular podcast player and gives the people the tools to create their own shows to a huge audience. Spotify now has all of this, and you can be damn sure that they're going to go hard into scaling this further. And one of the key ways that they're going to perform this scaling is through the use of ads, like I mentioned briefly earlier, but let's get into this topic a little bit deeper. With Spotify being a well-respected, well-known brand with money behind it and being based in Stockholm, the startup capital of Europe, it's no surprise that they attract some of the world's best engineers. So far, with these engineers, they have already managed to create a user-friendly application and have the ability to successfully show ads to non-paid users of the app, which systematically compensates for them not having a full subscription. And the fact that the very definition of ads is to be tailored to a specific niche organization, company or individuals. To fix this problem of having ads that are not specific to certain users, Spotify have been working on a new feature called ad insertion. This feature aims to deploy certain ads to show to certain people within certain shows. Behind the scenes of the function of this app, you can imagine that this relies heavily on user data. So essentially, this means that Spotify will use advanced algorithms to listen in on and generate podcast playlists for users based on the topics they are currently listening to. This narrowing approach is literally the opposite of machine gunning out ads everywhere, hoping that they'll sell. Instead, they've opted for using the user data to determine what topics and interests they have and sell the appropriate stuff based on that. Right now, on the market, advertisers care less about what the user is interested in as opposed to what they're consuming directly. And of course, Spotify being a multi-billion dollar organization, they know this and they're going to make some serious money off each ad. In addition to dominating the audio world, I believe Spotify have their eyes set on having a video service integrated into their app, essentially like YouTube. We already know that Spotify is working on live streaming video capabilities just for Joe, but what will happen when all the other content creators hear about this lucrative podcast deal? Will they switch over from YouTube to Spotify? In order to know this, we must know how YouTube's father, Google, works, and that is exactly the topic I'm going to cover in part 2 of this video. If that sounds interesting to you, make sure to subscribe and drop a like while you're down there. Anyways, till next time, peace.